Welcome to the First Gen 101 podcast. Today I am joined by Eustache Clerveaux, a first gen graduate with an impressive career. In this conversation, Eustache will share his personal journey, his current work in finance, and how he empowers people through personal finance. Eustache, thanks for being here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Miguel.
The last time we saw each other, it was at an alumni event, and that's because that's one of the things that we share in common. We both attended Rockland Community College and completed our bachelor's degree at Purchase College. And if I'm not mistaken, your bachelor's degree is in legal studies, which is also mine. So we share definitely many similarities.
Yes.
So let's begin there. I know right now your work is in finance, but before that, before you started college, what was your dream career?
Before starting college, if I can take you back, probably when I was 12 or 13, my dream career was to be a math professor, believe it or not.
Nice.
And I was in Haiti back then. So I came here when I was 19. And I love the idea, the logic of it. Math is honest. It's either you're right or you are wrong. And I love the idea of teaching other people how to, I would say, get it. But when I came here to the United States at 19, right, it's changed a little bit. And then I wanted to be a lawyer. So I went to, like you said, I went to Rockland Community College. That's where I get my undergrad in paralegal studies. And then I went to Purchase College where I get my legal studies, my bachelor in legal studies. I even took the LSAT. I sat for the LSAT and took it, right? Because again, when you think of lawyers, it's a secure career, right? You'll be able to help your family. But again, after I took the LSAT, I found out that it wasn't something for me. There's a lot of writing. It wasn't something for me. And I think about what do I want to do with my life? And I knew I'm good with numbers.
Hmm.
And math was something I'm very good at. And I was trying to figure out what do I want to do. So that's how I ended up changing career and went to finance. And that's what I do right now and work in finance. But yeah, before college was math and legal studies.
It's interesting because I think we've had this conversation before at one point. When I say before, maybe a year or so, we talked about law school. And one of the things that I mentioned was that now we see many people with finance backgrounds going to law school. So if you're ever interested in law school, that could still be something that you can do. But now I'm sure you're very involved in your career that it almost doesn't make sense, right? Education makes sense,
Of course.
but you're in a good place in your career from what I
And
understand.
and I find myself working a lot with lawyers as well, especially of what I do as well, right into the wealth management. I know we'll get into more into it. So I'm
Yep.
always talking with lawyers, right, whether, as a client or when you're drafting document for my clients and stuff as well. So I work with many of them.
So you mentioned your interest for math. I like how you said math is honest because one plus one always equals two. And you mentioned you were interested into going into a math related subject, but how did you specifically land in finance? Because you could, with math, you could have taken it in different directions. I have friends who work in analytics, they work in HR, or they teach. How did you find your interest in finance?
Again, when I mentioned math, that's much younger when I was 12 or 13.
Mhm.
But again, after I got my bachelor's in legal studies, I really did not know what to do. And the most practical thing was finance because it's relating with numbers, right?
Mhm.
But if I can take you back a little bit when I first came here at 19 years old, I'm from a big immigrant family. So I'm one of 10 children.
Wow, okay.
And when I came here at 19, 6 months later, we lost our dad. So I
Okay.
found myself has to go to work supporting my mom and 10 other children, 9 other children that they have. And that's when it was a difficult time. So I found myself right budgeting and helping my mom. So that's how I get into I would say the finance part of it, because I thought it was all about numbers as well. But so that's how I get into the finance, and then so that I can work go and work, let's say, in a financial institution, helping people with their money as well, because I started learning budgeting at that time. And then that's how I ended up in, again, get my finance degree and then working in finance in different institutions. But that's how the shift happened from, I would say, legal studies to finance.
And I think you, as we say, you hit it on the nail as to where I wanted to go because from your experience, I think you would agree that part of personal finance is math, right? But a big part of it is the behavioral aspect, the budgeting, the planning, the thinking ahead, the long-term planning, etc. And that's something you do for work. So I want to spend a little more time on that part of your life because I think there's a lot of listeners who will find connection there as far as coming from large families. How was the process of going to college? Because you're saying that you had to work and you had to also provide to help your mom and your siblings. How did you manage to go to college? What did that look like for you?
It was not a difficult decision because the goal was to graduate from college. That was the goal. And I will do anything just to graduate from college itself. It wasn't a degree. I just want to have a bachelor degree in something. But again, I found myself have to work. And I remember I used to do two, even three jobs at the same time while I was going full time in school. But again, I have to do what I have to do, right? The goal was first to graduate to get my bachelor's, but at the same time, I have to support my family. And once you put your mind into something, if you really want to do it, you will find a way to do it. So it wasn't really a choice for me, just it has to be done. So I just find a way to get it done.
That reminds me, again, I said this at the beginning, we share many similarities. And for me, it's very similar where while I don't come from a large family per se, but we do come from a very poor family. And so one of the blessings now, when I think about college, is actually that because I couldn't afford to go to a big school or a private school, and because I had to start in community college and then go to Purchase College, which was a great experience, it saved me a lot of money because I didn't have to go into debt. I was
Yes.
able to pay for college without having to get in debt. What was that like for you? Did you have to get yourself into debt for school? Were you able to pay as you went?
Early on, no. When I went to community college, not much debt. Even at purchase, I have a little bit. It's after when I decided to go into finance, which I went to get my MBA in finance at the private institutions, right? And that's when now the debt starting to pile up and all of those things. But early on, just to get my foot wet, I did not have to go through all of those student loan. And sometimes this is something that I also advocate for. I always tell people now, when you go into college, you have to see the trade-off, right? You don't want to have. I remember there was a friend of mine who went to college, get a bachelor degree, a bachelor in history, and she has over $200,000 in student loans. So you
Mhm.
really have to wait. Do you want to take that much loan when you go to college? And whether, when you will you find a job right after college as well? So it's something that you really have to wait. And unfortunately, for many first generations, we don't have mentorship. We don't have somebody to guide us. And getting into student loan, that's one of the easiest loan. You go, you sign without knowing anything, what's the impact will be right later on. So it's unfortunate. It's something that when I mentor other people, at the end of the day, it's their choice, but I let them know the impact they think about it.
What you said reminds me of something that I learned from another person, and this person taught me that with student loans, you have individuals, right? 18, yeah, 17, 18-year-olds for the most part, who are taking on this amount of debt in a career that they have no idea what it's like. And so it's something worth thinking about. Is it okay? This is something that we can discuss at another time because it'll probably take another episode on its own. But is it okay for people at a very young age take that much money in student debt? But I want to go back to your finance career. And for many, it's getting the first job that's the biggest challenge. And for many first gen graduates and even students, because they don't have the network, it's very hard to get that first job. Once you're in the network, it's a little bit easier. For you, how was the process of getting your first job in finance?
It wasn't easy, let's say. It took me probably 3 to 4 years
Mm.
before I landed a job in finance. And the reason I got it because I was working somewhere, I had to fire myself so that I can give full attention to look for a job. And the job that I found was in sales, which is selling life insurance.
Mm.
I wasn't good at. With at that time, I still remember I make $5,000 that year. But the idea is it's forced myself to learn, right? So I spent a little bit over a year at that place, but I get certification because once you graduate, sometimes that's not enough. And as first generations, and somebody, me, who have an accent, right, African American and immigrant, you have to work 2, 3, 4 times harder to get the same position with some other people. So it's getting certification. Every job that I got, I built on it. So I get the certification when I'm at a job. So I go there, I do a good job, I get another certifications, and if they don't promote me, I promote myself by looking for another jobs as well. But it took me 3 to 4 years before I decided, say, I have to do something. And I fired myself, like I said, and then start into the finance. I rather try something and I fail instead of I never try it. And I wish I should have done that.
That's a great mindset. I want to highlight one thing that you said, which is promote yourself. I thought that's very wise because it's okay to have a job that's steady, but if it doesn't give you the opportunity to grow, there is we do have a personal, in my belief, and I think you might share this belief, is that as individuals, we also have a responsibility to advocate for ourselves. And sometimes that means having to leave that job. So I thought that was really good that promoting yourself is something that we don't have to wait, that we can do. And then you also mentioned the certifications, which I think are really important. When you went into your MBA in finance, was this while you had your job in personal finance, or how did you decide to pursue this MBA?
The MBA was, I starting the MBA process in 2010 and I graduated in 2000, late 2008, 2009, I purchased. And I was looking, again, like I said, I ended up going into finance and that was the probably safer, something that's more connecting with me. I ended up going to that MBA and I was still working at another place. I was doing security job at that time. But the idea wasn't where I am. The idea was where in 5 years, where do I want to be in 5 years? So I'm willing to sacrifice right now. So in 5 years, I can be at a better positions. And once I reach that goal in 5 years, I will set the clock for another 5 years. I don't go beyond 10 years. I stay at 5 years, 1 year, and probably 3 months, right? But I will set the clock. Again, I graduated with my MBA in 2013. I didn't really find a job until 2016, 2017 in finance, right? Like I said, I had to fire myself and I was looking for a jobs, right? And I was working as a security with an MBA. I couldn't
Mm.
find a job in 3 years, 4 years. I said, what am I doing? I need to find a job. So I decided let me just take a big risk. Again, I was able to take the risk because I was single. I didn't have any kids. And sometime early on, you have to take that risk because at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, I can always find a job.
Yeah,
But is that something I want?
great. I think it's very encouraging to hear that it took a few years because there's a lot of first gen graduates, and we were just talking about this before we started the recording. There's a lot of first gen, and not even just first gen, just a lot of college graduates who are having a tough time finding a job. And it took you several years, not one or two, but more to find the job that kind of led you to the next. So those of you who are going to those challenges, just be patient. and be encouraged that you will find something. Just continue to be persistent. And I think you've carried yourself that way in your career in moving up and promoting yourself. So I want to talk about today. What type of work do you do today, and how do you help people in personal finance or any other type of finance?
I'm a partner and a private wealth advisor at Fidelity Wealth, which is a wealth management. And what we do, we're just helping most of my clients are first generation or immigrant professional. They are the first in their family who sometimes I say they make it, right? A lot of them are doctors, lawyers, nurse. They make it. They're making over $100,000, 200, some of them a lot of money. They're having that career success, but how do you turn that into wealth? So I work with them to really turn those income into wealth. And what I find out is that when you work with some other advisors, they really don't get your stories. I still have family back home. I have to sometimes send money through them, but sometimes you might work with another advisor. They don't understand why
Mhm.
you keep sending money back home, but they sacrifice their life to send me where I am now. So I feel like I'm still paying that debt. But at the
Mm,
same time, you have to take care of yourself, right? So it's really something that you have to balance. And that weight that we carried, right? And I share that same stories with a lot of clients that I help, like I said, the first in their family, right? So at the end of the day, I just help them. And there's one line I always say, we are the first in our family to achieve that success, but we do not want to be the last. We have to create a legacy for our children. My parents sacrificed their life, right? They only finished sixth grade, but they sacrificed their life so that I can be where I am now. That's a legacy for them. But now, what am I doing for the next generation, for my children, right? I have some debt. Maybe when it's come to the student loan, helping them so that they don't have a student loan when they go to schools, right? Or maybe it's the connection, right? I have some connections. Maybe make sure that they have that connection if they're looking for something. All of those things is to prepare them for the next life, right? And that's where the legacy comes in. And sometimes people think finance, it's about money, or legacy is about money. Sometimes legacy is about access. And if you
mm,
look at the word itself, personal finance, there's a reason personal come before finance. Like you mentioned before, it's more behavior. Because you can give somebody $1 million and the next day they finish it. And you've seen that with a lot of NBA players or people who won the lottery, right? They end up where they're starting,
mm.
right? So a lot of it has to do with behavior, right? And there's a reason personal finance comes first. And I see that during the COVID as well. People were their mindset starting to shift. They care about their family. They just want to make sure they will be okay, their family will be okay, their children will be okay. Those are like the question that I was answering during the COVID-19.
I've actually heard from a few other guests on the podcast. It's legacy. It's about, as you said, access and making sure your family it's will be okay, but also being grateful and giving. What has been one of the biggest lessons you've learned about working with first gen high income earners that kind of makes you realize, oh, we really need to educate people?
A lot of, because we do not have a blueprint. When you work with a lot of probably first gen, let's say, you make it,
Mm,
right? And then sometimes you feel like you have to show off, right? You have to go and
mm,
buy the latest toys to play with, right? And sometimes a lot of them think that making money, it's enough, right? Because it doesn't matter how much money you make. If you spend everything at the end of the month, you're not wealthy.
mm.
And sometimes one of the questions I ask them, if you lose your job today, doesn't matter how much money you make, if you lose your job today, how long will it take you before you have to look for another job? You might see somebody making $50,000 a year. And if they lose their job, it might take them 20 years before because they already have enough money, right? But somebody making $1 million, but they
Mm.
only have $2 million in saving. That's only 2 years. After 2 years, they have to go look for a job. So it's not really how much money you make. When you make more money, that's give you an opportunity to save more. but it's not really how much money you make. And I see that a lot of with first gens, right? So they go buying the latest toys as well. And another thing that I saw with first gens, right? Like I said, even though sometimes we know we have to help our family, sometimes you're the only one in your family who make it. But at the end of the day, you have to take care of yourself first.
Mm.
That's why when you get into a plane, they always tell you, save yourself first. It's not your children, it's not your spouse, it's not your mom. You have to save your first. If you don't save yourself, you will not be able to save somebody else. So you really have to take care of yourself and then find way to help other people as well.
That's a challenge. Successful people not only have the pressure to continue to be successful, but in many instances, they are the foundation, right? Like you said, you have to save yourself. So you need to be strong to also help. As you've worked with your clients, what is, I guess, the biggest worries for first gen? So let's just say, for example, you have a client who has a really good income, a really good job. Like, what do first gen clients of this caliber worry the most about?
And for this one, it's not just for probably first gen, it's a number of clients. It's more like one of the worried is, am I going to be okay? And if something happened to me, will my family be okay? And sometimes those are the questions sometimes we have to help them answer, right? And those are some worries that they have when it's come to those high incomes, right? And a lot of them living in New York City, let's say, on the high expensive area, and they have to live, they can't move. So there's a lot of balance that they have to do. But again, sometimes they are the only one in the family who make it. They have to support other people even here. Let's say if they have the sisters or the brothers who doesn't make it, but the only one who make it, right? Sometimes they feel that they have to help the other persons. But
Mm.
sometimes when you give someone something, it doesn't have the same value when they work for it. You might want to help them, but you have to help them at a limit as well. Because at the end of the day, when it's come for you to retire, nobody's gonna come and save you. So you really
Mm.
have to. And sometimes we say, yeah, retirement is in 30 years, right? It's a long thing. But before you know it, it's just gonna come. And the sooner you start, the better.
So for someone who's a recent college graduate, how would you advise them now? Not as a client, but as a mentor. How would you advise? Let's pretend that someone's coming to you and they're graduating this May, and they say, "Hey, what are some things that will help me be on track to keep my finances in order?"
First thing first, you really have, when it comes to cash flow or budget, or sometimes I call it spending plan, right? You really have to know what's coming in and what's going out. It really doesn't matter how much money you make,
Okay.
but you have to understand how much is coming in and how much is going out. Because if you spend more than you make, that's a recipe for disaster, right? So whether you make, like I said, $50,000 a year, $20,000 a year, you really have to try to really spend less than you make,
Mm.
right? I think that's the first things, right? And then if you're really spending more than you make, maybe you're not making enough, then you need to look for another job because at the end of the day, you have to survive, right? But you
Mm.
always try to spend less than you make. And the difference now that's what you have to save or you have to invest, but you really have to control your cash flow. And don't compare yourself to other people. Everybody is different, right? You don't know what they're going through. You might see someone is driving the latest cars, but they are in debt and you just have a beat up cars and right, but you have more money than them, so you really don't know what they're going through. Don't compare yourself to somebody else. I compare myself to what I was yesterday, what I was last year, 10 years, and I'm always say, am I better off than what I was? But really focus on your cash flow, I would say, right? And just spend less than you make and trying to make more money. Look for other certifications, whatever it is. Invest in yourself so you can make more money if you need to make more money. But it's not all about money as well.
What is something that worries you about personal finance, just across the board, that you see behaviors that kind of concern you about why are people doing this?
What I would say is, what was that? Earlier this week, I was watching TV, right? We have Amazon TV, and there was a commercial. And in the TV in the bottom, it said, "Do you want to add it to your Amazon shopping cart?"
Hmm.
Whatever the commercial was. I was like, wow.
Wow.
And this is a way to get you. And Amazon come with the one click. You don't have to add it to your basket. You just click buy now, and then they just charge your card, and boom, that's it. There's no the process itself. So it's so easy now to spend money. And that's one thing that's really worrying me, right? When it's come to personal finance, it's so easy to spend money, right? And with social media, you're trying to seeing all the time people showing off. You see the living the life and you're not living the life. And that's really emphasize you, right, to go and spend money and money that you don't have. And sometimes I say, you're trying to spend money you don't have to impress people who don't even know you, right? And that's why sometimes another thing is we spend money, then whatever left is what we save. It's supposed to be the other way. You save money and whatever's left you spend. How do you do that? You make it automatic.
Mm.
When you get your check, before you get your check, automatically you have 20, 30, $40, whatever it is, that's go directly into a different account, investment or another account that you don't see. You let it do its things, and whatever's left, you spend it. If you see spending too much, maybe you should find a way to decrease, but don't get the money first, right? $2,000 and you spend everything and whatever left, that's when you're trying to save. It's supposed to be the reverse.
That's smart. Make savings part of the top, right? That like coming off the top rather than just coming off the bottom in the sense of the last thing you think about. One
Exactly, like out of what is it? Out of mind, no, out of sight. There's a saying that says something like that.
out of sight, out of mind, something like that.
Yes, out of sight, out of mind. So when you make this saving automatic, you don't see it. It's just there. And then maybe 10, 15 years later, and you've been saving, you said, "Oh, I've been saving," and now you see it's keep going. Right? So you never seen it. That's why you gotta save first. And that's the best way to really build wealth and build legacy.
I like that when you talk about wealth, I like that you're not just talking about riches or the amount of money necessarily, but the ability to have a strong plan that's going to put you in a place where you're not in debt. So the way I'm understanding this is wealth, not so much as having a lot of money, but maybe not owing either a lot of money or no money. So the opposite. So we talked about your achievements, and I know there's more to come as you continue to grow in your profession. If someone wants to connect with your services or with the people you work in the company you're the partner at, how can they reach you?
Again, if you go to fidelweb.com, that's the firm that I am now. But if you go Google me, my name, financial planner, Eustache Clerveaux, or anything like that, I will come up in one of those social media. Mostly I'm active on LinkedIn, right? If you're on LinkedIn, connect with me. If you have any question, feel free to let me know as well. I'm always willing to help, right? I'm mentoring a lot of other people that giving them mentoring a lot of other people, whether through the schools or how the system, or they have a questions, feel free because I didn't have that when I was growing up. And it's sharing that knowledge. And if I have some knowledge and I don't share it with other people, other first gen who's going through probably the same thing I went through 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, just feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Social media, I'm on all social media platforms, but LinkedIn is the one I use the most.
And I'll definitely put all those mentions in the show notes. So when we release the episode, people will be able to click and just find you easily. And there's a lot that we can talk about, Eustache. We could be here for hours. I haven't even mentioned that you sit at different boards, including the Purchase Alumni Board. I believe recently you've part of the CFP Board of Ambassadors. So as far as knowledge and understanding, you are, I believe, the right person in this topic. As we close this episode, Eustache, this is a question I ask all our guests, and that is, what has been your biggest achievement as a first-gen graduate?
There is, I don't think there's one achievement of my life.
Mm,
It's more the journey.
mm,
And I'm on a journey, right? And it's more the journey. And every time I've achieved something, I reset the clock, right? Like I said, I came here when I was 19. I did not speak any English, right? And I wanted to be a lawyer,
mm.
right? And working nonstop, getting degrees after degrees, step by step, building a career. It's more for me, it's more the journey that's matter to me. But if I have to choose probably one thing I'm proud of today, probably it's being the room where I can open doors for other people, right? Whether it's serving as a CFP board ambassador, whether it's, and when somebody see me, right, somewhere that they say, oh, if Stash, right, an immigrant who doesn't speak English can do that, I can do it too. So those are, I would say, some of the greatest achievements. So when other people look at me, they can see themselves in me. And I do the same for me too. Sometimes when I look at a successful African American immigrant, somebody who's managing a big corporation, I see myself in their shoes and I try to study them. I'm like, what did they do? That's where they are today, whether they know me or not. But I try to follow them and study them. Sometimes I even refer to them as my role models, right? So I want to be them. And I would say it's the journey that for me, probably that would be the achievement for me, right? It's just step by step.
Well, thank you, Eustache. I definitely agree that just like you're following other people in their footsteps and learning, I highly encourage all the listeners to follow you. So, Eustache, is there anything else you would like to share with us today?
If I have to share one thing, I think former President Barack Obama said it. No one is coming to save you. You
Mhm.
have to do the work. And you have to work one, two, three times harder, but you have to do the work, right? And just at the end of the day, just do it.
Mhm.
Whatever you think you want to, don't overcomplicate it. Just do it, right? And if you fail, just do it again. You fail it third time, just do it again because consistency is the key, right? Eventually, you will make it. Just keep doing what you're doing and just do it.
I can't think of any other way to end the episode. Thank you, Eustache. Thank you for being here today, and we'll definitely keep in touch.
Thank you.